Kia ora, and welcome back to We Do B2B, the podcast by Blue Ocean, where we unpick the ins, outs, ups and downs of B2B marketing here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm your host, Dale Kerner, and I'm a B2B marketer like you. From emerging trends in thinking to inspiring real-world stories from smart, good people here in New Zealand, we are here to help the New Zealand B2B marketing community to become one of the best and brightest anywhere in the world. If, like me, you're a B2B marketer looking for a place to connect, learn, and be inspired, you have come to the right place. So, welcome to the show today. Now, if you're in B2B and you're in New Zealand, you'd know that the tech sector and the software as a service sector is one of the fastest growing and certainly one of the most scalable elements of the New Zealand B2B industry. So the guest that we have with us today is Bruce Jarvis. Now, he's the head of KiwiSaaS, which, as we'll unpick in the conversation, plays a pretty important role in certainly helping and supporting the community of B2B SaaS marketers and startups and everyone in that space to take their businesses and their business models to the next level. So Bruce, thank you for joining us. I hope I've done you justice and KiwiSaaS justice in that introduction.
Kia ora, and thanks for having me on the podcast.
Thanks for being here. So we'll start off with a bit of a left of center question that I didn't prime you for in the introduction here, but we're just a couple of weeks back here from couple of weeks back after Christmas, and with KiwiSaaS in the title, I have to ask you the question: what's the most Kiwi thing that you did over the break?
Went to the beach.
You went to the beach?
Yep.
Which one?
Went to Kiwi.
Okay.
Because we like Kiwi. Went to Devonport. I've got a young boy. He loves the ferry.
Yeah.
Put him on the bike, and so we went across to Devonport. And to me, Christmas is about beach time and family time.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more on that one. Fantastic. So let's get a little bit of an introduction. So talk us through Bruce. Who is Bruce Jarvis?
Who is Bruce Jarvis? God, it's always an interesting question. That my background is in programming, product, sales, marketing. It's quite interesting when we look at the sector and the opportunity it brings for people to come from other careers. I've actually got a degree in horticulture.
Okay.
Which is quite left field for most people to end up in this here. I went, like most young Kiwis, went off to London. Made me a surprise to some people, but if you've got a degree in horticulture and you land in London, not a lot of job opportunities. And so I retrained as a Kix COBOL programmer. There was this thing called Y2K coming up, and they needed a lot of programmers. They had a skills shortage. Does it sound familiar?
Yeah.
So I did a 3-month course, got placement, and then I moved on, started in very much the technical side, then joined Fisher & Paykel on the product side, then joined Provenco and rebuilt their payments division.
Okay.
And so that's when I moved more into the product international sales side. And then I've got this fantastic opportunity now in terms of building this community to help, as you said in the intro, this rapidly growing sector in New Zealand, which most people have never heard of and don't even know exists.
So let's lean into that, because this is something that I find fascinating. Do you have any stats on just what the SaaS sector and the tech sector contributes to the country in terms of economic impact?
So for the first time, what we've been able to do is start to actually understand that. So we've been building a list of SaaS companies as part of our community work. We've just got over 1,000 SaaS companies.
Wow.
Within that. Now that, what we call pure SaaS, that does not include those like Datacom, Delegas, etc., who what we define as SaaS ventures. So their core business is not SaaS.
Oh, I'm with you. Okay.
But they've got auxiliary services they deliver, which are SaaS based.
Yep.
Now the reason for that is in terms of getting the profile data, the mixture of their revenue streams distorts that. So we just focus on the data I'll give you is just for pure SaaS companies.
Okay.
We've got a data for 671 of those companies.
Wow.
In 2022, revenue was 2.9 billion. Now that's largely export because it's the nature of the business.
Yeah.
Employed 16,600 people.
Wow.
Now, what's really interesting, and here's some really interesting stats which underpins the drive and the need for what we do, is just under 10% of those businesses are earning more than $10 million annual recurring revenue.
Wow. Okay. So there's, well, that's okay.
So 90% are less than that.
Yeah.
What that actually indicates is we've got this huge pipeline of companies coming through, and so two-thirds of the revenue is generated by those above 10.
Yeah.
Half the headcount.
Okay.
So what that starts to draw a profile of is when, you often hear people saying, oh, this sector could be worth X billion in so many years' time. We've got the underpinning factors that sit behind this is actually real. And McKinsey in their research has said it's worth, the global market's going to be about 10 trillion by 2030. So, we've got all the factors underpinning it in terms of being able to achieve that growth. Now, the growth rate it's growing at currently today, it's doubling in size every 4 to 5 years.
That's significant.
So how that shows up, that 2.9 becomes 5.8, which becomes almost 12 billion by 2030, 2031. From a headcount perspective, and this is where the need for experience and knowledge comes in, that 16,000 goes to 33,000, which then goes to 66,000. In a relatively short time, just over a decade.
Yeah, so that comes with a lot of the complexities of managing a much larger workforce. I mean, when you hear the ratio, my mental maths is not quite able enough to work out what that equates to in terms of revenue per or GDP per employee, but that feels like a pretty high ratio.
And the thing is, I mentioned that's 671 of 1,000 companies.
Yeah.
And it excludes those what we call SaaS ventures, so we have to work out how we can capture that. So it's a very conservative number.
So we're talking about a pretty important sector here, right?
We certainly believe so.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing too in terms of those statistics is it's a sector that most people don't even know exists. You can't see it.
You can't taste it.
You can't smell it.
Yeah.
You can't see it. And the way I describe it, maybe slightly provocatively, it doesn't offend anyone. I mean, some of our land-based industries, they have got some downside.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting, a few years ago, I took a group of government people to Push Bay, just to understand, in terms of, get a view of, what the sector looked like, etc. They've got this little label on the door. So if you're walking past, they actually got lost because they couldn't find it.
Couldn't find it. And so just for context, the label on the door, what's behind the door? What does that represent?
So behind the door is 200 developers. It's a product team. It's the engineering team. At this stage, that was about a $3 billion cap business, 250 million US in revenue. So, it's because people can't see it.
Yeah.
They don't know it's there.
Yep, and maybe the space that they're in is hard to understand, or the business model is complex if you're not in that space.
So one of the conversations I had again with some government officials was, they said, what's the size of the market? I said, well, it's almost infinite. And they went, well, it can't be infinite. I said, okay. And again, I just use PushPay as an example, but there's lots of other organisations out there. Their focus is on the southern churches in America. Mm-hmm. How many churches are there in the world? Lots. It's a big number. Yeah. It's about engaging with their supporters. Okay, so from a congregational and a philanthropic model. Yeah. Okay, so how many university alumni out there? How many? So once you start to build it out, they're like, oh, okay. Now I'm actually understand. Yeah. I mean, Xero is a classic. Yeah. Everyone knows Xero because it's around everywhere. It's counting package in the cloud. How many SMEs are there in the world? It's a big number.
It's a big number, yeah. And I mean, Xero is an interesting example because it's Kiwi, I know it's Kiwi, but it would be interesting to gauge what percentage of the New Zealand population is aware of it and whether they know that it's a New Zealand success story, whether they know it even exists. And I think that would be quite an interesting thing to understand, from representatively speaking, what the public at large know about the Kiwi tech sector.
Well, I think there's two things about the SaaS sector. Everyone uses it in their day-to-day lives. Yep. And most people wouldn't think that they're dealing with, I'd suggest, a New Zealand company when they're using it. Because it's just part of your day-to-day life. It just fits. You get up in the morning and everything's in the cloud. Mm. And so you're just using all these SaaS tools. The other thing too, which is really just underpinning all the numbers we've talked about and the size of the sector, is these are productivity tools. Yeah. So not only is it we build a great export business in terms of high-paying jobs, revenue, but it also lifts the country's productivity because these are about productivity.
And that's something that as a country we do need to address. So the two are, I can see how they're tied very, very closely together. So I think that, that kind of covers a little bit about the sector, but let's talk about KiwiSaaS. So what is KiwiSaaS? What does it do?
So KiwiSaaS is a community, is an authentic community that's bringing all the SaaS practitioners together.
Yeah. Why?
To learn and share. So again, coming back to those numbers, the number of people who've been through that journey to building a successful international company versus the number of people who want to share that knowledge, share in that knowledge and experience, is just massively distorted. Yeah. Massively distorted. I would add into that, everyone along the journey's got something to share. Yep. Now, if you can have those conversations with someone going through the same journey, learn from someone who's just been through it before, you're going to make better decisions. All businesses are different, but being able to have those authentic conversations means you're going to make better decisions. So KiwiSaaS is all around, first of all, creating an identity, creating a community so you get what's called that network effect, and at scale and at reach, be able to connect all those people living and working in that community together. And so someone who's working in Kaikoura can connect to someone who's working at Kirikiri. Yep. And it's not reliant on physical events such as Southern SaaS or our local chapters. Yeah. They can do that digitally.
So how can, let's just say, if you're a B2B marketer and you're working in SaaS, how can you engage with KiwiSaaS?
So first of all, join, number one. It's free to join.
Yeah, it's free.
It's absolutely free.
Excellent, always good.
And look, the whole thing is about getting people into the room to have the conversations and to be able to share their knowledge and experiences. Now, we've got a whole range of products and services that bring everyone together. So, as I mentioned earlier, we've got the digital ones and then we've got the physical ones. 90% of our services are consumed digitally and the rest physically, and they are through Southern SaaS, which is our big anchor event where everyone comes together, and our local chapters, because everyone likes to get more personal, and we are humans at the end of the day. What the different services do, so I'll give you an example in terms of KiwiSaaS Central. You join there, we've got a forum, you can ask everyday questions, and even some of the most mundane things. People, what's a great CRM? Yep. We've got these issues about employment, we've got the cyber question, and we've also got a curated library. Now, content is not the issue. If you Google product or sales, you'll get, not only has Google democratized information, ChatGPT has just knocked it out of the park, but it's curating it in such a way that it's relevant and accessible for Kiwis, so they're not overawed by it all. Yeah. The other feature we've got as well, they can DM, so they go, there's another marketer in Kaikoura. Yeah. I'm just going to see if we can catch up. So you can DM. The other thing also for people in their regions, what we're starting to see is the local chapters popping up. So we just had one in Nelson, because people are starting to go, when they join, they go, there's a map, and they go, oh, I didn't realise these people were there. Yeah. I didn't realise these companies were there. Oh, okay, so let's organise a bit of a get-together. And so that is just one element. So that's the community element, the KiwiSaaS Central. We've got our matchmaking, which there's an AI engine, and it matches people.
Like speed dating sort of thing, yeah?
It's like speed dating. Yeah. Our NPS score on that averages in the high 80s, early 90s.
That's huge.
Initially, we thought there was an error, but no.
You're doing something right when you question whether it's...
But what it does, it enables people to connect. Yeah. At a time that suits them. So just going back to KiwiSaaS Central, so we use a platform, we use a SaaS platform. Their benchmark in terms of the level of engagement is 10%.
Wow.
We're currently tracking around 25%.
That's great.
So, we've been going in the market just over a year. We've got about 3,000 members from about just over 500 companies, and they've consumed about 5,500 in terms of our services. So that brings that element together. So that's the community piece. The other two components of it, SaaS is very much about metrics. So we've got the business performance and the sector performance. That's all around getting people to understand their metrics. We're launching a dashboard and benchmarking program. And the second element is the masterclasses. And so again, they are specific short courses around specific job functions, sales, product, marketing, etc., focused on SaaS, and also focused on those metrics. So when you're looking at your metrics, what do you need and how can you change those to improve that? So it's very much an integrated system-based approach. And so the sum of all the elements is exponentially way more powerful than the individual components.
Than the individual parts. Now, one thing you mentioned earlier on is that it's about facilitating conversations, connecting the person in Kaikoura with the person up in Kerikeri. What are the conversations that the SaaS industry needs to have? Where are the areas that, as a collective, as a nation with a SaaS and with a tech industry, what are the things that we need to be doing better or focusing on, and how can we push it further?
Well, that's for the sector to define that. That's for our community to define that. We provide the scaffolding.
Okay.
If you look at the conversations that go on in the community, like I say, it's everything. The full range from the most confidential, which they undertake in the matchmaking because it's a one-to-one, and the more open in the forums. There's a whole range. I mean, we're trying, if you look at Gain Southern SaaS, encouraging people to actually look at AI, how can it help their business? So we've got Tatana Mullet, who's coming over from the States, very interesting person. We've got a PhD in economics and anthropology.
Oh, wow.
Worked for Amazon, Salesforce, etc. in terms of a product role. So brings a really interesting lens in terms of we've been here before. Don't be scared of it. But you need to look at it in terms of how you apply it to your business. And so it's going to be a fascinating speech that she's bringing, a presentation, I should say. And following up the following day with a workshop in terms of how do you bring AI into your product set as a company. So, but as a sector, the conversations we need to have is actually bring ourselves all together collectively to share that experience and share that knowledge at scale. And we bring the opportunity to do that.
Do you know the number of times we've heard that within SaaS, but within B2B as well? I mean, that's kind of one of the driving forces for what we're doing here, is that it's, like you said earlier on, you've got this somewhere out there, there's the door with the label on it and 200 people like driving a really productive business behind that. And the people in the room next door have got no idea what's going on. So I mean, for us with We Do B2B, that's very much what we're trying to achieve as well, is making sure that we are leveraging each other's knowledge and experience and stories and successes and failures in order to help everyone get further and faster together. So one of the things that we touched on just as we were chatting before we hit the go button before we hit the record button was the kind of various different areas that KiwiSaaS actually really focuses. Now you're not here to help people become coders, right? You're not there to support the learning and the coding and the tech side of things. It's more about the commercials. Is that right?
It's the commercial side. It's the sales, product, marketing, customer success, leadership. Because the tech side's been well catered for. It's the business side, the commercialization side, and the thing about SaaS, if you look at in terms of our community, we've got organisations from manufacturing, from fintech, from health tech, from sports. It's a whole, from mental health. So it's a whole range of industries, which coming back to that sharing element. Because people go, but won't there be some competitive element? Because these companies are global from day one, it's very, very rare that they'd be competing against any other Kiwi company.
That's fascinating.
I've never come across it, put it that way.
Okay.
And so the ability for people to share those experience and knowledge at scale is people actually feel free and quite comfortable doing that, providing you provide the right environment for them.
Now, with those different areas, I mean, you talk about leadership, you talk about sales, you talk about marketing, product, customer success. One thing that I think we've observed from our audience is that it's quite common for B2B marketers and people in SaaS to almost not suffer in silence, but to feel like the challenges that they have are unique to them, which is, I think, seldom the case. But what are the main challenges that you're and that the community is helping businesses overcome and leaders overcome?
It's interesting, just picking up your point there. I mean, have you ever been at a conference and you want to ask a question and you go, I'm a bit nervous about doing that because I'm going to look dumb, and then someone else asks the question and you can almost see the whole room going, thankfully that person asked that question. That's what the community is all about.
Yeah.
So you do that either in a private conversation or in a forum-based environment or at a physical event. It covers everything.
Yep.
Everything, and so by being able to have those conversations where you think you're the only one who's going through that experience, there's a room full of people wanting to ask the same question. And so what we enable people to do is to have those. I mean, what's really interesting in terms of our forums, right, we've got all these threads running, is that the number of times we'll see a thread that went quiet 4 months ago, all of a sudden someone's gone in and they search and gone, oh, actually, that's really interesting. Another additional comment or question goes onto that thread. Yeah. So it's every aspect in terms of not only the functional nature, but the market nature, the behavioural nature, but the fact that they can talk to someone and ask those questions. It just takes that pressure away because I came back to, if you've got someone you can talk to, you're going to make way better decisions. Now your case is always unique, but the fact you can have 2, 3, 4 conversations, you're going to get different views, different thoughts, and it means that you will make a better decision.
Yep.
And you'll be a lot more confident in terms of that journey because you suddenly go, oh, okay, they've just told me I think we had someone the other day in terms of our promo said, learn where I'd screwed up. Don't screw up the way I screwed up. But that's much probably a bit harsh in terms of them saying it, but we've all done that. And passing on that knowledge so people go, oh, okay, A, that's okay, B, that's how you learned. Oh, actually, I was thinking about doing that. Now, in that situation, it didn't work, but from what they've said, that actually might work in my situation. So they had the conversation. So what was unique about yours? Why didn't it work? And you go, oh, okay, well, do you think it would work in my situation? Might go, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, well, if you tried this, da-da-da.
Yeah.
It's enabling those conversations to be had. Okay, come back to it, and I'm kind of repeating it a wee bit, but at scale. If you've got 1,000 companies and you've got 16,000 people, all across, New Zealand, Aotearoa, New Zealand, be able to do that at scale with no restrictions means that you'll be able to support the growth of those people and those companies for the benefit for New Zealand. And
it's definitely a sector that stands to benefit New Zealand. I mean, certainly some of the stats around, like you said, wages and salaries within the space in terms of its productivity, it's got huge scope. Now, you mentioned...
Can I jump in there, one which is very topical at the moment, actually?
Absolutely.
It's not affected by geopolitical issues. So I don't know if you know, at the moment, spot rates for containers are going through the roof.
Okay.
Container shipping, because of what's happening in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. Now, the flow-on effect with that, the shipping rates, it could affect other industries, forestry, etc. And so, because we just ship it all out across that little wee cable that goes out underneath the sea, that nobody's heard about and pops up in someone's business or lounge, it's not affected by a lot of those geopolitical issues. So that often gets overlooked by people.
Which, from an economic contribution perspective, de-risks the whole thing, makes it that much more stable. That's definitely in its favour.
It's one of those sectors, when you go through it, you kind of go, there's got to be something. There's got to be something in here that's a downside.
Have you found it yet?
No. I'm still looking.
I'm still looking.
And someone could tell me, that'd be great.
So we'll get onto Southern SaaS in a minute, but this topic is really interesting for me. What about the sector do you love? Because it's clear that you do.
I mean, when you talked earlier about the personal side of the story. I grew up in a part of New Zealand that wasn't most people that wealthy. People don't have the same. Not everyone has got the same opportunities in life. And so for me, there's two things that excite me about this sector. The second one is the fact that it offers such an amazing opportunity for New Zealand. Actually, three. Two, globally we're good at it. And I just love, I know from my commercial career, going out and beating the big guys, and people going, I always remember one quote I had when I was transforming the Prometheus payments business. And the question was, and they doubted, said, how come you say you can do it and all these other parties are saying it can't be done? And I was just like, well, we're smart for a start. But it was just that whole, playing up big on the world stage.
Yeah.
And that's just the feeling that comes with it.
Enormous pride from that.
It's pride, I mean, I can just imagine, sports stars when they win the Grand Slam or get the winning goal, have that same sort of sensation or that feeling. But coming back to my earlier point, it's because you can enter this career, the sector, through essentially short courses, both technically, in terms of, there's organisations like Dev Academy and Mission Ready, where you can start your tech career at very entry level on a 12, 15-week course. You don't need to go to university. And so that opens up pathways for people who would not necessarily always have those opportunities.
Yeah.
And so what I find exciting for this is it's got a real opportunity to level up the opportunities for all of New Zealanders in terms of high-paying jobs, salaries, etc. So, not only is it low emissions, it generates revenue, but it's also a pathway for high-paying jobs for a lot of people who may not even look at it as an opportunity. All those pathways are not available to them.
Yeah, if you look at a career trajectory as being dependent upon going to university, and I mean your own is an example, right? The degree in horticulture kind of went out the window when you did a 3-month course.
And away I went.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. When I hear these stories about skill shortage and I'm like going, okay, it's not new.
Yeah.
And in terms of the pathways, etc. So that's what really excites me. It just ticks, and coming back to my earlier point, you kind of look for a downside. It ticks all the boxes. It ticks every single box that you could possibly think of. The challenge for the industry, it's got an identity issue.
Okay.
Because I come back to it, it's invisible.
Yep.
I mean, there could be 500 people in this building, there's actually one down the road, I won't mention it. It's got, I think, 250 people in the building.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and it's actually got acquired by an international company.
Yeah.
So again, some people go, company X got acquired, it's terrible for New Zealand. No, it's great.
Yeah.
Guess what they do? They invest more in those people and they grow those teams.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fantastic. You just don't see them.
See, that's a really interesting kind of, almost, I don't know how to describe it, but that sense that acquisition from overseas is bad, and that mindset that says, people buying up New Zealand, it's so different from the concept of somebody buying up land and doing nothing with it. Like you said, if they've invested in the company down the road with 250 staff, well, guess what? Those guys have now got the weight of a bigger company, bringing in possibly growth and strategy and all of the other bits and pieces that go with that, and that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, look, they bring in channels to market, they bring growth, and also you remember they're buying the IP.
Yes.
And this industry, what's it built on? A computer, a keyboard, an internet connection, and people.
Yeah.
Well, the first three you can get anywhere. The people who've got the IP that came with building that business are in that business.
Yeah.
They're not going to shut it down. They're not going to shift it offshore. And so they're going to grow it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting, there's a company up in K Road, EasyVet.
Okay.
Right? Now, if you go, they're in the old telecom building. Now, if you're on the city side, it's got a sign that says EasyVet. Can't remember the number of people there, I think it's about a couple of hundred. Mm-hmm. Most people don't even know they exist.
Yeah.
They are owned by an offshore company.
Yeah. But that's the nature of the beast. What do you think it would take for the tech sector to make itself more publicly known and understood and appreciated?
Good at storytelling.
Okay.
Oh, look, it's starting to get, look, the narrative is starting to get out there. People are starting to understand it, to see it. It's, as we get some more high-profile success stories. I mean, Sequent was a great one in Christchurch. It was a $1 billion plus acquisition. People are like, Sequent, what's this? Christchurch, where, what? Where did that come from?
And I'm going to ask an ignorant question here because I'm sure I should know that, but I don't. What's Sequent?
So Sequent is, they basically look at what's underneath the ground and can tell you what's underneath the ground. For planning and building or just out of sheer interest? No. Mining, all sorts of things. One thing they do is, where's the best place to store nuclear waste? They're a fascinating company.
Yeah.
In terms of, and their journey has been even more fascinating.
Yeah.
So the other thing with this sector is when you see companies when they're very, very small, there's so many variables that come into being successful. You can't go, that one there is going to be $1 billion company.
Yep. There's so many other facets involved.
So many other facets involved.
Yeah.
And so when they do pop up, people are just like, where did that come from? We've got this company doing this.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that I always find so fascinating is there's this industry here that's solving problems that most people wouldn't have a clue existed. We were chatting to the guys from Track Plus the other day, and it's like, cool. Who knew that there was a market for aerial firefighting software as a service, tech-enabled SaaS in that space? Didn't even know that was a market because I'm ignorant of what goes on in that space. It's just amazing. So one of the things I think that can address some of that is certainly getting a community together, and that's probably a pretty good segue to touch on Southern SaaS, what it is and when it's happening and what that sets out to achieve. So take us through Southern SaaS.
So Southern SaaS is, I come back to the community piece where people like to meet in person. It's the anchor event. We're all humans. It's an annual event. It's where we bring the community together. This year it's an all-day plenary session. We've got 11 speakers from around the world and locally. The breadth of speakers we've got throughout the day, a lot of people won't know that one of our biggest SaaS successes is Les Mills.
Okay, yep, would not have known
So
that.
Les Mills International is a SaaS success.
I actually didn't know they were a Kiwi company. I came across them in Australia. I feel really ignorant. The producer Louis is laughing at me.
So, people live in Auckland, you'll hear, there's bricks and mortars, but they are one of our, B2C, one of our large success stories in the SaaS space.
And they would have blown up through COVID, I'd imagine. Yep.
So, we've got Amber Taylor from Les Mills talking about that story. So it's, and again, coming back to you, I didn't realise that was that. It's so many of these SaaSes in our everyday lives. And the opportunities that everyone's building these products and services, they're going, well, actually, that's done really inefficiently. I can create some digital tools to make that really efficient. There starts a business. And then before you know it, it's a $1 billion business that's employing 200 or 300 people.
Yeah.
So full day plenary session. And then the next day we've got 2 workshops, one with Michael Philpott on storytelling and pitching.
Good.
The humbleness of Kiwis does us a lot of disadvantage.
We keep hearing this piece.
Stop
underselling yourself, right?
We undersell, and then our main markets as the US and Europe and America. They are born with, they're salespeople in their DNA. It gets inserted at birth. Whereas Kiwi's the other way around. And if you're competing in America, you've got to sell. You've got to be able to sell. Tell that story. Tell that narrative. So we've got 2 workshops the following day, and then we've got our first masterclass series, Meteoric Sales, which relates to the metrics, and it's driven, and it was split up by revenue band. So it's very targeted by revenue band, which is by business life cycle stage in terms of where companies are. So we've got Carter from Revenue Chemists coming out of the States. So one of our focus is to make global experts affordable and accessible to the average SaaS company. And so that's why, bring these people down. And again, I'll emphasise, we do have global experts in New Zealand. Some people will go, oh, hold on, but what about, Kiwis Absolutely. There's some real superstar global experts living in New Zealand, and so making those accessible and available to the community.
It's a noble cause, but it just sounds like a really interesting thing to be part of as well.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. It's yeah.
So what does GDP aside, what does success look like for the SaaS sector, for the New Zealand SaaS industry?
We're number one in terms of exports. I mean, you've got to aim big, you've got to aim high. I've always been highly competitive.
Yep.
And ambitious. And when I say ambitious for what I take on.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the growth, you look at the size of the market, I think it's there. The good thing is, and actually just coming back to what we said about SaaS is everywhere, is SaaS products are actually helping the agriculture sector be efficient,
mm-hmm.
effective, productive. So it's everywhere. It's a win-win for everyone. The sector grows and is very, very successful. And New Zealand does build global companies, and it's interesting. That's been driven by companies like Sequent, like PushPay, like Xero.
Mm-hmm.
We are very much on the lens in terms of the world market, looking at New Zealand companies in terms of their contribution and what they develop and
so
build.
We have eyes on us.
We've definitely got eyes on us. You're talking to the people who work in the M&A space, absolutely got eyes on us, which is great. Which is great.
I mean, you want the investment markets to be looking our way, right?
Well, it's a sign we're doing it well.
Yeah.
Investors don't look at stuff that's not going great. So that's a sign.
Fantastic. So producer Louis just gave me the wave a couple of minutes ago to say, hey, we're getting near time. So we'll kind of get to wrapping up the conversation. So is there anything that you would ask of our audience, of our listenership, from your perspective as the head of KiwiSaaS, to support KiwiSaaS, to support the industry, to support themselves?
Just join. It's free. You can meet people that you would never met before. You'll engage with people companies you didn't even know existed. You'll find out, in terms of what we're talking about before, these organisations. And look, we see these people from the organisations. We're going, who are they? And we go and look up their website and go, whoa. I didn't know that was a business.
Yeah, it makes me feel a bit better that you're experiencing that as well. I feel less like a fraud.
That's why I've come to work. It's just like, wow, there's, they're doing this and they're doing that, and it's like, a good example is like Total Learning, down in the Waikato, got acquired for 145 million, and
it blows my mind.
it's you're kind of going, the stuff's happening all over the place. Actually, just coming back to what we were talking about before, so one of the products we're just developing with Product Tank Aotearoa is it's called Product Match.
Mm-hmm.
So I come back to that data point where it's 10% above 10 million and 90% below. When you're above 10%, you work in organisations where it's about optimisation.
Yeah.
It's non-brand, non-market, and so it's a different skill set and different mindset where new product, new market.
Yeah. Market doesn't know the product exists. Yeah.
And all those issues.
Yeah.
And so what we're working with them, we just run a pilot, is we were matching, so the product managers want to know, get the skills and understand for those working in the below 10 so they can learn about that. And the founders and people working on that want to understand more about product. So we've actually bridged that and brought everyone together. So again, that's community. And so the reason I brought that up, talk about the marketers, is we're looking at would do those across each of the job functions, but it's how do you bring people together at scale? And so I encourage people, look, join. You'll be surprised who's in your hood.
Yep.
You'll be surprised, and especially around the virtual matchmaking pieces around who you can connect and talk to, and just to expand your horizon. So it's a pretty exciting world.
It sounds it, and it sounds like a really exciting thing to be a part of. So thank you so much for coming and sharing. It's great to kind of learn a little bit more about it, and also to get a bit of a look under the hood of some of those bigger perspective things within the industry, like who are the companies, who are the movers and shakers, what are the drivers, what do we need to achieve. I really like your point about the whole sector being something that is not I don't want to say that it's not difficult to get into, but that it's accessible.
It's the most accessible industry to enter.
Yeah.
In terms of high-paying jobs.
And for someone who's got young kids, that actually, it makes me excited that New Zealand is investing in an area that could sustain them, and in a way that's geared up for whatever may come. You know, you look at some of the firms that you're talking about, and the technology that they're using didn't exist 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 3 years ago in some cases. So the fact that it's kind of building this future-proofed, high-value, accessible market that New Zealand has the aspiration of being number one in the world at, I just love. I think that's a wonderful window.
So the other thing I'll add into there as well, in terms of, and I know we're getting shorter time, is that the move to digital transformation is well underway.
Yeah.
And that, 3 trillion, the McKinsey data was 3 trillion in 2022, and I think 10 trillion in 2030.
I don't even know how many zeros that is.
That's a lot. It's a big number. So you hear these numbers, it always says, it's way bigger than we.
Yeah.
It's way bigger. So, it's a big number. And there's a real opportunity for us to be part of that. And we are part of that.
Yeah.
And by getting together and your market is joining, we can accelerate the opportunity for us to capitalise on that. And that's exciting. That's really exciting. I think it's an exciting space to be in, and it's an exciting time.
And as a B2B marketer, like reflecting on some of the points that you've made along the way, the need for storytelling, the need to be able to communicate the value, the origin story, all of that. I mean, that all speaks to the marketing skill set. So the fact that it's creating opportunities for developers, as well as then I see a huge opportunity for B2B marketers in the tech space. I think we see, and our mission, just to draw some parallels here, is to help the New Zealand business-to-business community to become one of the best and brightest in the world. And we really see that it has the capacity to do that. Like we have this mindset of taking on challenges that, like you said, you can be the first to overcome those things. You can be the first to take that one on. You can go into a market with the pride that says no one else could, but we did. And
everyone's always surprised to go, where did that come from?
Yeah.
It's the number of times we hear that, it's like, huh? It's kind of like, whoa. And that's a $100 million business. That's a $1 billion business. That's it's like, okay.
Didn't know you were...
I mean, another fun fact, we've overtaken wine. Now,
really?
Yeah, so we've overtaken wine. Now, how many people know about Martinborough? How many people know about, Waiheke in terms of the quality of wines? How many people know about Trove? How many people know about Les Mills International? How many people know about, I can list them all.
Yeah. Or the 571 that you've got the data on.
Or the other 1,000.
Yeah.
So it's it's a,
I mean, it's a
hidden secret.
It is, and I'm looking forward to it not being a secret.
We're working hard on that, but yeah.
And good luck in that endeavour, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate the conversation, Bruce. Thanks for coming on.
It's been great being part of it. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Cheers. That's that. Thanks for listening to We Do B2B by Blue Ocean. Now, brace for CTAs. If you want to join and grow the community, make sure to subscribe wherever your eyes and ears absorb information. Don't forget to switch on notifications so you know when the latest episodes drop. And for more B2B goodness, be sure to follow Blue Ocean, the B2B agency, on LinkedIn. Now look, you know how this next piece works. The more reviews we get, the faster this thing grows. So please do for us what you hope your customers would do for you. Leave a review and share your thoughts. Let's stay connected and keep the B2B marketing conversation going.